I'm desperate to talk to Emily because I want to know what's going on at your college.
Go on, Emily.
I wish I knew. All I can say is that I'm deeply embarrassed and ashamed to say that I'm a King's College London student. I mean, this man was a governor of our university since 1955, and for all he did for us, this is how we treat him. It's so embarrassing, and I really am ashamed.
And this is
Sorry, go. Let me just say.
This is a university's anti-racism group. I mean, how many students actually support this stupid idea about Prince Philip?
Well, the thing is that universities are supposed to kind of encourage rational thought and debate and things like that. Yet we have lecturers that are apparently offended by a photo of a great British servant. And it makes me question, if we have these people working in our universities, how does that come across to students? We're supposed to be encouraging debate in our university, different ways of thinking. And well, we've known for a while that universities have a certain bias, but this was just hugely disappointing because it's someone that's done a lot, not just for the university, but for the country in general and young people through, for example, the scheme, the Duke of Edinburgh scheme that's inspired thousands of young people. And it's just a disgraceful way to treat kind of someone that's done so much.
Do you know the lecturers who feel so horribly offended by this guy?
No, but I can sort of guess by some of the comments that my lecturers have made in the past. Some of them don't seem to be the biggest fans of this country, to say the least, which is a shame.
Why don't they?
Yeah.
I can't say the word this time. Like off abroad.
All I want is just someone like a refreshing lecturer to actually, support a different way of thinking, because they all just do seem to have the same thought, and it's a shame really, because obviously that's going to reflect on students, and it would just be nice, a big fresh of air, to have a lecturer that actually loves this country.
Emily, I noticed you're a member of the Conservative Society there, which I should imagine goes down like a bucket of cold sick with some of your lecturers and fellow students. What sort of reaction do you get to that?
Well, yeah, of course. As with all universities, it's kind of a left-wing playground. So there's definitely, like, for example, there's lots of students going around with bags that say "Don't kiss a Tory" or whatever that saying is. I'm just like, come on, get alive. I probably wouldn't want to kiss you anyway, Yeah, no, it's just little comments. For example, one time I was in a lecture and something completely unrelated, I can't even remember what it was about, but the lecturer just made a comment comparing Donald Trump supporters to Brexit supporters. And if you know anything about British politics, you know that that's just not an accurate comparison. So I do think
tell him that?
This is just part of a wider problem. Well, yeah, I try, and I seem to be, the only one on my side. I'm a bit outnumbered by the others, really.
And why are they so? Well, I'm sorry, but if they're only preaching one political direction, and okay, Talk Radio, we are slightly right, I suppose, of centre as a radio station, but why would they only teach the sort of banality of socialism, which hasn't worked for anybody? Can anybody actually explain to me any country where, I know Cuba's great, everybody says it's marvellous, but apart from Cuba, where has socialism actually worked?
Exactly. I mean, I'd love to know. And all I want is for universities and lecturers to offer the other side, and you just don't get that. You get a very one-sided argument. So I find in my essays, for example, I sometimes even argue things I don't believe in because I'm scared that I'm going to be marked down for arguing otherwise. But this problem with kind of
hang on, Emily, hold on there. Hold on, Emily. If I thought in this country we had such thick, stupid people who'd become university lecturers that would actually mark somebody down because they disagreed with it, I would want them sacked and I would want them exposed. So if you have any evidence about that, Emily, please share it with me or Dawn, and we will publicise it. This woman, Jolene Clark, who's the associate director, do you know her?
Well, not personally, and that's the problem with universities in general. There's a massive disconnect between kind of students and like governing bodies. But I have come across her.
You don't think you could tell her that James Whale's desperate to talk to her, could you? She'd probably say who and why. Because I would love to talk to a person who decides to apologise, because Prince Philip may have been lots of things, and he was very funny, and I don't think for one moment he was racist. I think he was a man of his time, and the way we expressed ourselves over time, as you know, Emily, is different. I think the new generation, how old are you? 19, 20?
Yeah, 21.
I think the sort of 18 to 21-year-olds are nowhere near as woke as the slightly older 25 to 30-year-olds, who seem to be the ones who are giving it a lot of lip at the moment. But none of them want to debate it, so it's really very difficult to find out what's making them so sort of, well, I think stupid. I'm sorry if it offends them, but there we are. I don't want to call this some mental health issues and all that sort of thing, but you've got to be very careful these days, offending people. But I mean, this is university. This is you starting out in your life, where you want to find all sorts of opinions. You want to have arguments with people without thinking that they are actually going to mark you down in your exams.
I think that's appalling. I think that's a really genuine, appalling story, what Emily's just mentioned there. The fact that you are literally being persecuted, discriminated against, because you don't agree with woke thought. You think differently. You're not, what you're doing, Emily, is you're not being offensive to anyone. You just have your own opinion, your own viewpoint, and you're brave enough to stand up and talk about it. And I think it's appalling that you are being discriminated against for having an opinion. I mean, what is going on in our universities? And I find it particularly upsetting that a lot of students like Emily are all being tarred with this brush that they're all woke little idiots that can't cope with anything. And it's not true. You've got amazing young people coming through our universities, but they're being silenced by the people that are meant to be preparing them to go out into the world. It's insane.
All these people doing media. You're not doing media studies, are you, Emily?
No, thankfully not.
The worst thing you could do.
I hope you're doing politics, young lady.
Yeah, the worst thing you can ever do. But a lot of these people coming into the media are so flipping, oh, I've got to be so careful, haven't I? I don't want to offend too many people.
That's
but
the problem.
you
have to be careful. You have to think about everything you say, because you say the wrong thing and then someone's offended and you've been cancelled.
Yeah, well, they can try cancelling me, but it'll really work out badly for them. But I'm trying to get some of the there's another word that rhymes with woke, but I just can't use it. But I would like to get the woke people on to just, maybe they could change my mind. I mean, I'm a fair man, they could maybe change my mind. Don't look at me like that, Dawn.
I'm not. I'm just thinking. I'm just going to ask Emily if she has any other examples of wokeness that has been forced down students' necks at her university.
Well, this wasn't at my university, but just to show how much the kind of indoctrination is, back in secondary school when I was in year 9, so how old was I? Maybe 14. We were shown a variety of party political broadcasts, and the UKIP one back in 2014 was presented as the racist party, those words exactly. We were then shown the Labour Party one and said, oh, this is an example of a good party that wants to help society. And I will never forget that story, but that is the best example I can give you, and that's starting from 14. They're young and impressionable, so it's really shocking.
And no
where did you go to school, Emily?
In Northampton. I won't name the school because in general it was very good, but that one incident was a shocker.
But a lot of these people who are in charge of teaching young minds at the moment, Dawny, as well, I find really quite worrying. Now listen, I'm severely dyslexic. I left school in the 60s. I don't have one qualification. I'm not boasting about it, but I'm just saying I didn't have the benefit of that sort of education, although I'm okay. But a lot of people who went to school in my situation, failed the 11 plus, went to a secondary modern, didn't have much of an education. I don't even have one good thing to say about my school days. But I'll tell you this. I think being a teacher is probably the most important job, more important than any other job in the world, because without a teacher, you don't get a good politician, you don't get great doctors and scientists. Without a good teacher, nobody has a good start in the world. And I don't think, because teaching is not looked upon as a very good career, the saying, if you can do, if you can't teach, is often used. And I think teachers are poorly paid, they aren't respected, and I think we should be doing both of those things and getting the top people from all different viewpoints to teach. Maybe we need to have more of a debate about this.
Well, you can't. That's the problem. You can't have a debate. You get shut down. You get cancelled unless you are subscribing to the 1984 theory of you've all got to think the same way. Otherwise, you're cancelled. We have to make this stop now. It's insane. And young women like Emily are suffering because of it. I mean, the fact
How
that you're
difficult
getting
is your
marked
life?
down. Oh.
Yeah, how difficult is your life at university, Emily? Because you
well,
are
to be honest,
decided.
I'm very lucky to have a supportive friendship group who don't necessarily vote the same as me, but are very accepting. But what I found is after I went on Question Time, people that I'd been friends with for years suddenly didn't want to be my friend just because I'd come out as a conservative, which is quite shocking, really, because surely you need to judge the person rather than their political beliefs, which are very mainstream beliefs, by the way, nothing controversial. You know, the majority of people vote conservative at the moment, so it's nothing too controversial, but still lifelong friends no longer wanted to be associated just because I wanted Brexit and I voted conservative.
Well, they're not friends. I'm sorry. That's not friendship.
Don't you worry. No loss to me. No loss to me.
Good for you.
What do you want to do when you leave university?
Oh, it's a good question. I wish I had an answer for you, but we're considering a whole range of careers. But part of me wants to go into teaching. You know, just to kind of shake it up a bit,
Rebalance it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Take back the fight.
But I was talking to somebody about this the other day and asking what they wanted to do, and I mean, I just left school and it worked, and that was it really. And I'm very lucky. I just fell into what I do, and it kind of worked for me. But you need. I don't actually feel I've ever had a job, Dawn. That's the strange thing. I don't actually feel I've ever had a job.
The thing is, if you have a job you love, it's not work. You just love what you do. And, in an ideal world, we would all be in that situation. Sadly, we're not. But, I mean, I think teaching is so important. And I think it's appalling that it is so one-sided at the moment. And the other thing, James, you talk about not getting a further education, not going to university. The fact that youngsters now are encouraged to go to university, whether it's right for them or not, is doing so many children, youngsters, a disservice as well. I mean, sort of like we are now beginning to reintroduce apprenticeships, which is right for some kids. And that's a good thing. But, the whole Tony Blair thing where everybody has to go to university, everybody has to have a degree, it's not right for you. And there's nothing wrong with not going to university.
And for those people like me who didn't pass the 11 plus, I remember how traumatic it was now. I had to have a couple of days off school. And luckily, I changed my whole ethos in life by the time we came up to exams and going to university, because I just wanted to get the hell out of it and do my own thing. But, I imagine people now not getting into university, of which there are many, feel that their life is over and that they failed and they're not going to go anywhere. And that is so wrong.
I think you're right. We are setting kids up to fail and to think they're a failure before they're even given an opportunity. And, you come out of a university with thousands of pounds worth of debt, whereas if you go straight into apprenticeship or into work, you don't have that debt. And you're obviously, many a time, you're actually in a better paid job. There is nothing wrong
Anyway, Emily,
with
whatever you do, Emily, you will be very successful at it, I can tell.
Yeah, good luck.
And don't let them put you down. If a lecturer actually you think has marked you down because of your political views, come to me.
That's a good story.
Oh,
And
I
it
will.
will be a
I will.
great story.
Don't you worry. I won't be bullied by the mob.
Brilliant. Good for you, Emily.
Good for you, Emily. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Nice to meet you. Emily Hewertson,